The worst part about finding out your wife is screwing your boss isn't the betrayal. It's realizing everyone at the office Christmas party already knew. I'm Lucas Mitchell, 42 years old, senior account manager at Pinnacle Creative, and apparently the biggest fool in downtown Chicago. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. She could do better than you, Mitchell. Read Hawthorne's voice carried across the rooftop terrace like a final verdict wrapped in expensive scotch. My wife Amber stood 3 feet away, not defending me, just staring at her champagne flute like it held the secrets of the universe. The laughter that followed wasn't the polite kind you hear at corporate events. This was raw, genuine amusement at my expense. Jesse Martinez, Reed's assistant, practically snorted. My old friend Vic Patel looked away, embarrassed for me. Even Sarah from accounting, sweet, quiet Sarah, cracked a smile. You know what, Reed? I set down my beer and stepped closer. You're absolutely right. She could do better. Hell, she could probably find someone who doesn't need 3 martinis to get his dick hard, unlike some creative directors I know. The silence was beautiful. Reed's face went from smug to crimson in 2 seconds flat. Amber grabbed my arm, her manicured nails digging in. Lucas, apologize, right now. I looked at my wife of 8 years, really looked at her. The new perfume I hadn't bought, the lipstick shade that never made it home, the way she'd been working late every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 3 months. Or what, Amber? It's over? Her eyes went cold. Fix this? Or yes, it's over. I smiled, the kind of smile that probably scared her. Funny thing about over, sweetheart. Sometimes it's just getting started. I walked away from my marriage that night, but I wasn't walking away from the game. I was just changing the rules. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in my Honda Civic outside Moretti's Diner on State Street, watching my wife feed tiramisu to my boss. They weren't trying to hide it anymore. Reed's hand was on her thigh, and Amber was giggling like a teenager. The evidence had been piling up for weeks. Amber's sudden interest in client dinners that lasted until midnight, the way she'd started showering immediately when she got home. Her phone, which used to lie around carelessly, now glued to her hand like a life support device. Mrs. Chen from our apartment building had been the final piece, sweet old lady who missed nothing. That man in the expensive car, he comes by when you're at work, she'd told me yesterday, watering her plants on the balcony. Very handsome. But married men shouldn't visit other men's wives, don't you think? I'd thanked her with a box of her favorite tea and a promise to handle the situation. Now I was handling it. My phone buzzed with a text from Vic. You sure about this plan, man? Seems extreme. I typed back. Reed wanted to play games. Time to show him what happens when you're better at them. Inside the diner, Reed was signing the check. They'd be heading back to his penthouse soon, the one his wife Heather knew nothing about. But Heather would know soon enough. The photos I'd taken, the credit card statements I'd copied from Reed's desk, the hotel receipts I'd found in his jacket pocket, everything was already in a manila envelope addressed to Mrs. Heather Hawthorne. Phase 1 was about to begin. My phone rang. Amber. Hey, babe. Working late again tonight. Don't wait up. Sure thing, sweetheart. Have fun at your photo shoot. The pause told me everything. Yeah, photo shoot. Love you. Love you too. I hung up and started my car. Time to visit Reed's wife. Heather Hawthorne lived in a Lincoln Park mansion that screamed old money. When she opened the door, I could see why Reed had married her. Tall, elegant, with the kind of bone structure that belonged on magazine covers. She was also holding a martini at 2 in the afternoon, which told me everything about their marriage. Lucas Mitchell, I said, extending my hand. I work with your husband. Oh yes, Reed mentions you. The account manager with the pretty wife. Her smile was polite, but tired. What can I do for you? I handed her the envelope. I think you deserve to know what kind of man you're married to. Her face changed as she opened it. The photos were crystal clear. Reed and Amber kissing outside the Fairmont, entering his apartment building, his hand on her ass in the parking garage. The hotel receipts showed a pattern going back 4 months. Snake, she whispered, then looked up at me. How long have you known? 3 weeks. I wanted to be sure before I came to you. Heather's laugh was bitter. You know what's funny? I've been suspicious for months, but I thought it was his secretary, that little Jesse boy who follows him around like a puppy. Something cold settled in my stomach. Jesse? Oh, yes. Reed's had a thing for pretty young men since college. I just assumed. She studied the photos again. But it's your wife. How delightfully conventional of him. I left Heather's house with more questions than answers, but one thing was clear. Reed Hawthorne was about to lose everything. 2 days later, Reed's BMW wouldn't start. Funny thing about sugar and gas tanks, it's actually a myth. But disconnecting the battery and loosening the spark plugs? That works every time. I watched from across the street as he called a tow truck, his face red with frustration. The note I'd left under his windshield wiper was simple. She could do better. So could your wife. A friend. By Friday, Heather had filed for divorce. Reed was served papers at the office, right in front of the entire creative team. His face went white as he read them, and I made sure to be in the break room when he stormed out, slamming doors. Rough day? I asked innocently. Reed stopped, turned, and for a moment I thought he might swing at me. Instead, he leaned in close. This is your doing, isn't it, you pathetic little man? I have no idea what you're talking about. But hey, if your wife found out about your extracurricular activities, maybe you should have been more careful. You have no proof of anything. I smiled. Don't I? That weekend, Amber confronted me in our kitchen. She'd been crying. Her makeup was smeared and her hands were shaking. Reed's wife knows about us. Does she now? That's unfortunate. Lucas, this isn't a game. My career could be ruined if this gets out. Your career? I laughed, setting down my coffee. What about our marriage? What about the 8 years I spent believing you actually loved me? I do love you. No, Amber, you love the stability I provide. You love having someone to pay half the rent while you screw your way up the corporate ladder. She slapped me, hard. I didn't flinch. Instead, I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. It had been recording our entire conversation. You just admitted to the affair on tape. Thank you for making my lawyer's job easier. Her face went pale. You're divorcing me? Already filed. You'll be served Monday morning. I've also frozen our joint accounts and changed the locks. Your stuff is in storage unit 247 on Western Avenue, the keys with the manager. Amber sank into a chair, the reality hitting her. Where am I supposed to go? I hear Reed's looking for a new place. Maybe you two can find something cozy together, if he's not too busy dealing with his own divorce. She left that night, and I celebrated with a bottle of wine and the best sleep I'd had in months. But I wasn't done with Reed Hawthorne, not by a long shot. Monday morning brought the kind of chaos I'd been hoping for. Reed arrived at the office looking like he'd slept in his car, which he probably had. Heather had already cleaned out their bank accounts and changed the locks on the mansion. Jesse Martinez was waiting by Reed's office with coffee and what looked like genuine concern. Mr. Hawthorne, I heard about the divorce. I'm so sorry. Reed barely acknowledged him, slamming his office door. But I'd seen something in that interaction, something that confirmed Heather's suspicions. I spent my lunch break doing research. Jesse Martinez, 26 years old, graduated from Northwestern with a degree in marketing. Single, lived alone in a studio apartment in Wicker Park. And according to his social media, he'd been taking a lot of photos at the same restaurants where Reed liked to eat. Interesting. Wednesday night I followed them. Reed and Jesse, having dinner at an intimate little place in Boys Town. Reed's hand kept finding excuses to touch Jesse's arm, and Jesse was looking at him with the same adoring expression I used to see on Amber's face. Reed Hawthorne wasn't just cheating on his wife with mine, he was cheating on my wife with his assistant. The beautiful, twisted irony of it all made me laugh out loud in my car. Thursday morning, I made copies of everything. Photos of Reed and Jesse together, credit card receipts from their dinners, hotel records I'd obtained through a private investigator friend of Vic's. Then I did something that probably crossed a line, but I was way past caring about lines. I sent it all to Amber. Her response was immediate. "We need to talk. Now." We met at a coffee shop near her temporary apartment. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, hair unwashed, wearing the same clothes I'd seen her in 2 days ago. "You snake," she said, sliding into the booth across from me. "You knew about Jesse." I suspected. "You confirmed it by looking like someone just told you Santa Claus was fake." "This whole time, he was playing both of us. Welcome to reality, sweetheart. Population, everyone but you." Amber's eyes filled with tears. "What do you want from me, Lucas? You've already destroyed my life. I want you to help me destroy his." The look she gave me was pure poison. Why would I do that? Because he made fools of both of us. Because he's going to walk away from this with his reputation intact, while we're the ones who look like idiots. And because if you don't help me, I'll make sure every photographer and gallery owner in Chicago knows exactly what kind of person you are. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her untouched latte. "What did you have in mind?" I smiled. "Reed's presenting the Morrison account to the board next Friday. Biggest client pitch of the year. What if his presentation included some additional materials? You want to humiliate him in front of the entire board? I want to destroy him the same way he destroyed our marriage, completely and publicly." Amber nodded slowly. "What do you need me to do?" The Morrison presentation was scheduled for Friday at 2 p.m. in the main conference room. The board would be there, along with the Morrison executives and most of the senior staff. Reed had been working on it for weeks, and everyone knew landing this account would make his career. Jesse had been helping him prepare, staying late every night to perfect the slides and rehearse the pitch. What Jesse didn't know was that Amber still had access to Reed's computer password, the same one he'd been using for months. Thursday night, while Reed and Jesse were having their secret dinner, Amber and I were in the office, uploading our own additions to his presentation. Photos of Reed and Jesse together, screenshots of their text messages, hotel receipts, and a few choice images of Reed and Amber that I'd taken outside Moretti's. But the real masterpiece was the audio file I'd recorded of Reed talking to Jesse in his office earlier that week, when he thought everyone had gone home. "My wife's lawyer is trying to take everything." Reed's voice was clear and frustrated. "But she can't prove the adultery if we're careful, and that pathetic cuckold Mitchell doesn't have the balls to cause real trouble." Jesse's response was equally damning. "What about Amber? She's getting clingy." "Amber's a means to an end. Once the Morrison account is locked up, I won't need her anymore. She's not exactly executive material, if you know what I mean." I'd been hiding in the supply closet when I recorded that conversation, and it had taken every ounce of self-control not to march into Reed's office right then. Friday afternoon, the conference room was packed. The Morrison executives, 3 serious-looking men in identical navy suits, sat at the head of the table. The board members flanked them, and the rest of us filled in the remaining seats. Reed looked confident as he approached the podium, Jesse hovering nearby with backup materials. He started strong, talking about market penetration and brand synergy, clicking through slides that showcased Pinnacle's best work. Everything went perfectly for the first 10 minutes. Then slide 15 appeared on the screen, a photo of Reed and Jesse kissing outside a hotel in River North. The room went silent. Reed's face drained of color as he frantically clicked his remote, but slide 16 was worse. Text messages between him and Amber discussing their Tuesday afternoon meetings. "What the hell?" Reed started, but slide 17 cut him off. It was the audio file, his own voice filling the room through the conference speakers. That pathetic cuckold Mitchell doesn't have the balls to cause real trouble. I stood up slowly, every eye in the room turning to me. Actually, Reed, you might have underestimated this particular cuckold. The chaos that followed was everything I'd hoped for. The Morrison executives walked out immediately, their faces disgusted. The board members were shouting questions at Reed, who was still frantically trying to shut down the presentation. Jesse had gone pale and was backing toward the door. But I wasn't finished. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, my voice cutting through the noise, "I think you should know that Reed Hawthorne has been using company resources to conduct multiple affairs, including with his direct subordinate. I have documentation of company credit cards used for hotel rooms, business trips that were actually romantic getaways, and client dinners that were actually dates." I pulled out a thick folder and set it on the conference table. "Everything's in there: receipts, photos, recorded conversations, all obtained legally, all admissible in court." Reed finally found his voice. "You bastard! You planned this whole thing." "Damn right I did. You said my wife could do better than me. Turns out she could do better than you, too." The security guards escorted Reed from the building 20 minutes later. Jesse was fired on the spot, and I was called into the CEO's office for what I expected to be my own termination. Instead, Margaret Winters offered me Reed's job. "That was either the most unprofessional thing I've ever witnessed," she said, "or the most brilliant piece of strategic planning I've seen in 30 years. Either way, we need someone who can think 3 moves ahead." I accepted the promotion. Amber tried calling me that night, probably hoping we could reconcile now that Reed was out of the picture. I let it go to voicemail. "Lucas, I know you're angry, but we could try again. We were good together once." I deleted the message without listening to the rest. 6 months later, I was running the creative department and dating a lovely woman named Patricia who worked in marketing. Reed was unemployed and living in a studio apartment, his reputation in the industry completely destroyed. Jesse had moved back to Wisconsin to live with his parents. And Amber? Last I heard, she was working at a portrait studio in the suburbs, taking graduation photos and family portraits. A far cry from the high-end fashion work she'd been doing. I never did find out if she genuinely loved Reed or if she was just using him the same way she'd used me. In the end, it didn't matter. They'd both learned the same lesson. Sometimes the quiet guy in the corner is the most dangerous person in the room. Reed was right about one thing. She could have done better than me. She just should have figured that out before I decided to do better than her.